No matter if you are grinding for core crystals or just casually play through Xenoblade Chronicles 2, most of the time when you resonate with a core crystal, you'd pull a common blade. Generic looking humanoid creatures who are wielding one of the common weapon types and who range from being awfully bad to absolute god tier. Rare blades are just that rare, so with chances being so high, that leaves us with the question, why aren't there any common blades in Xenoblade Chronicles 3? Now, there are a few ideas I have in mind, but let's start with the obvious first. From the perspective of a game designer, common blades in Xenoblade 2 were probably just placeholders that had to exist in order to give the player access to all kinds of different blades and elements. With the obvious advantage that no playthrough would be the same, and I love that. However, Xenoblade lore almost always has something to work with when it comes to even gameplay elements sometimes. Common blades are appearing in many different side quests. You can see them during main story cutscenes, they appear on the overworld as NPCs, they aren't just hidden away. So, if they are present in the world of Alrest, why is there not a single one in Aionios? There are two reasons that could explain this, and a third idea from the art book of what could have happened with them. Firstly, after the end of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, there is a lot that happens off-screen. The worlds of Xenoblade 1 and 2 get into contact, and with the combined efforts of Shulk and Tora, Origin is built. And most likely due to the destruction of the World Tree and Jin's legacy, they found a way to make blades separate from drivers, so that they were able to become a mortal species on their own that can live alongside humans. I highlight the World Tree's destruction here, or rather the destruction of the Beanstalk, because in it was the system, the Trinity processor, which was the tool that scanned all the data that was coming through the core crystals into the conduit and back, or something along those lines. This next bit might sound weird, but since we never had a case of a human blade hybrid in Xenoblade 2, despite drivers marrying their blades being confirmed, this off-screen solution also leads to human and blades becoming compatible. Or it just wasn't important or planned in Xenoblade 2, but it's just cool to see the kids of your childhood heroes, so they thought screw that. Blades are mostly a mix of mechanical and humanoid, sometimes even animalistic parts, that are thrown together. Sometimes this leads to weird outcomes, such as disfigured arms and legs, body parts that aren't even part of the body, and missing parts entirely. It's almost as if they were like AI art, generated by meshing together DNA until something humanoid came out of it. This is also the reason why so many weird-looking enemies are present in the World Tree, because they too are artificially created by the conduit itself, or the system the conduit is connected with. And we can take that as explanation why common blades are much more mechanical looking. It's what the AI can do best. While we don't know how exactly the awakening of a blade works, I do think that, aside from a little bit of randomness, both the DNA of the driver and the data collected by the core crystal over the time it existed plays a role in how the final result will end up looking. Since blades can turn into titans when they hit the end of their lifespan, they can change their appearance during this process, kinda like they evolve into different beings the more often they are resonated and the more often they die, etc, etc. But again, this is not confirmed, it is just how I imagine how it might work. In the end, no matter how we twist it, blades aren't humans. But they are definitely modeled after humans. And perhaps rare blades, especially those who look extremely human, are just an accident. In a way we can say, blades are a new kind of artificial, unpolished, mutated humans. Now, when we look at all the blade human offsprings we see in Xenoblade 3, we notice that they look a lot more human than their blade parents. This is most notable with Linka, in my opinion. She looks just like her mother, but aside from her core crystal, there is nothing that resembles a typical rare blade, and the shoulders of her mother are completely missing. We do know that core crystals are very reliably passed down to a blade-human hybrid, and it is indeed the most common trait that we can see in these children. Aside from that, some blade humans also inherit the ether lines or elemental traits, such as Nimue's hands or Senna's hair. You can see all of this or only the core crystals in both important and NPC characters from that species. But in general, there is a trend that blade humans look much more human. If we look at Taion, for example, you could never tell he is a blade human hybrid, unless he removes his shirt to reveal his core crystal. Core crystals are so compatible with humans that Mio even inherited the blood inside of Nia's Flesh Eater crystal. However, as we see with Niall, that blood is slowly vanishing over the generations, and that means these traits too can change. And that is where we find our answers. Another example of a species losing their traits when mixed with humans are the Hyantia.
The results of the gene analysis show Hom's gene integration of 80%. Estimates suggest evolution within 8 generations. Our wishes are almost fulfilled.
Wishes?
Our purpose, as decreed by the Bionis, is linked to our genetic sequence. We have spent millennia analyzing sequences to free ourselves from the curse. Only a certain gene set will unlock the mechanism and set us free.
We can notice that all the Hyantia we see in Xenoblade 3 have very small wings. And we know that this is the case because they are Hyantia Homs hybrids. This was very important for the Hyantia during the time of Xenoblade 1, because they knew that if they had too much of their original blood, they would turn into Telethia when Zanza commanded it. I'd also go as far and say that all the Machina we see in Xenoblade 3 are Homs hybrids too. This is because in Xenoblade 1 the Machina could age thousands of years, and in their first hundreds they were in a baby-like state, which isn't possible because Lance ages just like Noah in Uni. Finally, we have to look at the city. Despite Xenoblade Chronicles having a very diverse cast of humanoid species, the city is exclusively, and I mean 100% inhabited by plain old humans. If we exclude DLC content. But even if there is like 1% of humans who still have core crystals like Marsha, that is not much. So the first reason why there are no common blades is because, just like Hyantia and Machina, over time they lose all their special traits, and the more generations we have, the less and less the blade part is even visible. The human genes are, at least if they are on the same level as Hom's genes in Xenoblade 1, stronger than the rest of the humanoid species. So ultimately, if all of them are in a small place like the city, every child at some point will be a human until Mother Nature decides to give one of them their ancestor's core crystal back, or something. With all that evidence, it's safe to say that even if humans and common blades made babies, they'll end up looking like a human with core crystals or elemental traits. I'd like to headcanon that these kids especially inherit other things than just their core crystal, because there isn't much else that a common blade could inherit. Mio, Tyon, Glimmer, Linker and Nael, all of them only have a core crystal, and all of the parents were either a very human rare blade, or not even blades, but blade eaters, as in Tyon's case. Only Senna has both the core crystal and the other inheritable traits. Plus, it would fit to Senna's character arc if her parents include a common fireblade, because she's meant to be the most normal in the group, but I still love her. The second reason why we see no common blade is that there isn't a single old character from Xenoblade Chronicles 1 or 2 at all in Aionios. There are some exceptions. These are Alvis, Melia, Nia, Poppy, and temporarily Rex and Shulk. But aside from them, every single person in Aionios is from the youngest generation. The rest of them are either gone, or, as the artbook explained to us, turned into objects. Evidence of this is that, again, we don't see any fully blooded Machina, Hyantia, and mostly blade human hybrids at best in Aionios. This is a war for kids only. Parents have to stay outside. Which means there can't be a common blade in Aionios even if they wanted to. Because, as we have established earlier, most blade offsprings, even if they had a common blade as a parent, are now very human. Or maybe common blades were here all along too. Just like Ricky, waiting to be found, but turned into an object that is floating eternally through the ether of Aionios, until it eventually disappears or reawakens once this war is finally over. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to comment, please tell me how long it took you to get Cosmos in Xenoblade 2. I needed 6 months. Or 5, I don't remember exactly, but it just took forever.